Hey guys, we are back with the second podcast on the Moostash channel. We haven't developed a real name yet, so we'll go ahead and just kind of start it off. So we got Moostash here.
Megaman here.
Gorgeous Man.
Holiday.
Ms.Moostash.
So this subject is going to be based on summer movies. We will have some honorable mentions after the list, but let's go ahead and start off. So going from May all the way to August, we'll start off with The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Godzilla, X-Men Days of Future Past, Transformers Age of Extinction, Snowpiercer, Guardians of the Galaxy, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and A Million Ways to Die in the West. And then the honorable mention with Captain America, The Winter Soldier. So we'll go ahead and start off with The Amazing Spider-Man 2. So, what did you guys think of The Amazing Spider-Man?
Amazing.
Spectacular.
The best movie ever.
So,
you know what? That was the first movie that introduced me to what Mortal Kombat was like in its prime. It ended on the high note of a great fatality.
Oh my god, dude. That's so we're starting off the podcast with a neck-breaking reaction going into this movie.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
Okay, if you did not know, there will be massive amounts of spoilers in this podcast.
And a bunch
God,
of cracking
spoiler
necks.
alert. Let's get to cracking.
So, first off, villain. We get Electro as the villain this time. So, what'd you think as Jamie Foxx as Electro?
I've never seen Jamie Foxx as a villain.
Yeah.
But this role, it was just super amazing how he was. I mean, even though he was a loner the whole time, like, I need a friend. It's my birthday. Did a really, really good job, and especially the fight scenes, especially went with the music.
For me, I liked it a lot. It was just that, like as you said, it was kind of different seeing him going from like the quiet type to like out of left field, just flipping on him because of like his mental illness or whatever he was carrying around. Because I mean, you could see he was really focused on his work. He was really good at what he did. It didn't really bug him, I guess, in a sense, because it kind of did. He didn't like the fact of being pushed over all the time and being sought over, where he was doing all the work and then, you know, everybody was just abusing him. So for seeing him going from like a lonely, depressed man to becoming like a lonely, depressed hero, I guess.
You would really consider him a hero?
Oh, not here. In my eyes, he was a hero. That's Jamie Foxx.
Well, in his eyes, he was
I mean,
trying to be a hero.
I saw him die in a fire movie, which I can't remember the name to right now. But you know what? When he went out in flames like that, I figured, you know, he might go out in flames in this movie, which he kind of did. I mean, until they put him in water and stuff. But it was, in my opinion, as the villain or hero in my eyes, he did a good role. And I mean, wait, did he ever get caught in this movie? No, he sort of died, right?
I don't know if he kind of died or just got taken out, like, because I don't know if they even like re-caught him, I guess.
Yeah, because he could still be alive, like in a current or anything like that. Yeah, so technically he's not dead this time, I guess, like in the original Spider-Man trilogy, where if you were a villain, you just didn't have a second movie to come back to.
Yeah.
Unless you were like the Sandman who like escaped that. He fled for his life because he knew he was going to be in the next one, which sadly enough he wasn't in the next one.
That's because there wasn't a next one.
But I mean, at least Electro has a fighting chance. Even the Goblin that they introduced has a fighting chance of being in the next one. And the Rhino ended with a fighting chance to be in the next one.
Yeah. I felt like with Rhino in particular, they essentially just teased him to essentially be like, this is the start of a Rhino, like, section. Mm-hmm. So, I thought that was good. So, Jamie Foxx.
Going off of what Beto was saying about all the villains dying in the previous 3 Spider-Man, well, if you guys saw the secret ending, they showed all the other costumes for the Sinister Six. So you automatically know Jamie Foxx, I don't want to necessarily say has to come back, but it leaves it open like, oh, Sinister Six, Jamie Foxx is coming back as Electro.
Well, I think they did actually, they did kind of confirm that because, like you said, the secret ending, if you actually had your phone and you had Shazam and you did it, it would actually show you an image that was each person of the 6. What? Kind of confirming, but loosely confirming and not confirming because they did say some people weren't going to come in. Like, for one, they introduced Kraven in that.
Yeah,
when we haven't even seen a Kraven yet.
Could be the Rhino movie.
As well as at the end of the Spider-Man movie, we see that chamber. You know, we see Doc Ock's arms. Samples. We see Vulture's wings. As well as we see a few other things.
You also see Goblin's head, by the way, if you guys remember that. It wasn't in the U.S. release for us, but I think it was in like in UK and Europe that they also saw that he was in one of them also.
Sweet.
Yeah, so for that, I mean, this movie, on my opinion, for a Spider-Man, I guess that's closer to the comics, it's a well worth watch because I mean the original trilogy for me was really good because they're trying to introduce that superhero movies are good again along with like at the time the Batman Begins and stuff like that. So the original trilogy coming from Sam Raimi, who I love almost every one of his films, just brought back like the fact that we can do superhero movies now that people want to pay to see. And so now that they rebooted it and they're going back more to the original concept of Spider-Man, kind of like what they're doing with all the Marvel films, I like the open idea of that, and that if they keep going with this, maybe Gwen Stacy can come back, even though she did pass away. They can go on like the ultimate storyline, and they could bring her back, and just clone her or something, and then maybe have her as a Carnage or something like that. Because isn't Carnage, if I'm right, was like kind of announced for the Venom movie? Yeah. So they can kind of bring either Emma Stone back in the Venom versus Carnage and leave her out of the Spider-Man franchise, or later on down the line have those comics meet up and Peter Parker goes through like withdrawals after possibly meeting Mary Jane and then meeting Gwen Stacy again. And
I think going back to what you were saying about those older Spider-Man movies, that's when I always chalk this up to the older Marvel movies, is that those were very gimmicky as well as trying to get people into superhero movies. Mm-hmm. Those were like the prequel to the superhero movies that we see now. Yeah. To where Daredevil, as many people hate Ben Affleck as Daredevil, like, I think he's going to do really good in the Batman movie just because at the time, that's what old superhero movies were. Yeah. They were all about gimmicks and seeing the person in the costume. Because look at the old X-Men compared to First Class and Days of Future Past.
Yeah. And I mean, even on that note, you could think back to were older comic book movies that people didn't know were comic books, like Blade, for instance. Mm-hmm. Unless you read comics or watched the original Spider-Man and saw Blade and remembered him, I guess, most of the time you wouldn't picture Blade, the original one, especially from the intro, the first 5 minutes of the movie, when you see like the vampires inside of the club, you just wouldn't picture that Marvel right away. And then eventually they introduced it as the Marvel Knights and stuff like that, with that and Ghost Rider and more of the adult themed heroes, and the Punisher with Thomas Jane. Great movie, and unless you knew he was a comic book, I mean, that movie alone just had enough substance there where they made a crappy sequel. But I mean, Thomas Jane, I think, has also made like little shorts of him as the Punisher since then, and people would like to see that again. So for that, I mean, it was gimmicky at the time, but now that people are more or less willing to keep their mind open, especially after such horrible films like Twilight, that people go out of their way to go watch those. I mean, if you can spend money on that movie and take your girlfriend, at least you can like drag her along to go see a Fantastic Four movie or something.
Hateful stares from Ms.Moostash right now.
But you know what? I did invest money on The Notebook when it came out on DVD.
And it makes all.
That was a good movie.
Well, hello, Ryan Gosling.
Oh, dude, yeah, right? For sure, perfection. How many stars with everybody out? Spider-Man.
I get a 4.4, 4.5 out of 5.
I would have to give it the same score. The only thing, though, is I love Emma Stone, so to see her taken out really hurts me.
It really hurt her, too.
I'm telling you, dude, it was like Mortal Kombat when you're on top of the building and you just knock them off and like, crack! But that, you know what, she went out pretty badly. Even I admit I kind of teared up because that death, even when he throws a webbing and you see the hand come out of the web, sort of, and she still died, I don't know. I felt bad for her.
And then Megaman?
Yeah, I give it a 4.5. I agree with Moostash and Beto about the whole Emma Stone dying. That really was just... I really wasn't expecting it because I never really got into the Spider-Man comics per se until Holiday was just like, oh, dude, yeah, you need to watch the ending. Oh, God, what's going to happen? And then just the dramaticness... The drama of the whole, like...
Dramatization.
Thank you.
Well, everyone knew it was coming, too, because everything was based off the comics. The costumes, everything, even hers, but it was a given.
It was 4.5.
Well, maybe not everybody.
4.5. I give it 4.5.
Besides Batman, I'm one of the biggest Spider-Man, so I'm going to get that movie a 5 regardless.
I knew he was going to say that.
I'm biased on that one.
I'm going to give it a 3.
You want to put your input on that, why?
Come on, Ms.Moostash.
Where's your input?
Tell Andrew
Why
Garfield.
is it a 3?
So Andrew Garfield, why his performance?
No,
was
I like Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone, but like I didn't like Jamie Foxx.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan.
Going with her not being a big fan, even though Jamie Foxx is a major villain of the movie, I felt like he was a little second string compared to the Goblin.
Goblin, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Goblin, totally, because of the friendship and all the chemistry they wanted to introduce.
And I felt like Goblin wasn't essentially seen as a main villain just because they wanted to essentially start off the story of Goblin.
Yeah.
So for me, I mean, I'll give it a 5, but my honest opinion, I would have to give it a 4. Only because they tried to cram so much in that movie between the intro as Rhino, the ending was Rhino, the friendship and all the stuff going on between the Goblin, and then at the same time, the introduction and the fall of Electro. So, I mean, it seemed like they tried to cram too much in the movie, but just the way they kind of did it was good enough to where, you know, it didn't feel like I was overwhelmed with villains, because had they added another villain, I'd have been like, okay, this is way too many things going on.
Look at how many times they did that with the Batman movies.
Yeah, there's too many sub-stories there, so for me, it was a pretty good transition, so I give it a 4 on an honest note.
I feel like the fight between him and Goblin was not long enough.
Short-lived.
Yeah. It was really quick. I don't know if they were trying to focus on Emma Stone and that whole thing, but...
He did get knocked out pretty fast, so
Yeah.
that was a downside.
I gotta say, though, best part of that fight was you know, just Electro and Spider-Man dropping the bass.
that was pretty
Exactly.
cool. Yeah.
The song, you know what, the song to that.
Yeah.
That was
movie
the perfect
was
part
like
for a D-Box, though, when it was going back and forth with
Yes.
the song. It was like, dun, dun, dun,
Oh,
dun.
that was-
If you had a chance to watch a D-Box, whenever the movement of the chair would go along to the music or the finale, it was a good experience. It was worth going to go through the second time just for that experience.
So,
Thank you, Kathy.
next movie being one of which of a reboot, we have the newest Godzilla movie.
Oh my god!
All of us here saw it.
It's a reboot
Saw
of
it.
a reboot.
So, Godzilla. What did we think of Godzilla?
Amazing.
6 out of 5.
Man, jumping off with the rating already.
It was really good. The acting was phenomenal in my opinion. I really liked Bryan Cranston. I really liked him in his role as kind of like pretty much like the father type that just dipped out and really didn't get over the death of his own wife, and that still kind of bothered him. He still felt like it was his fault. And then Aaron Taylor Johnson comes in. You need to get over that. I got over it. It's time to move on. And how it just shows that struggle between that father and son connection between them. I really like how it got into that as well. Not just all the action and stuff, especially that ending though. That finale between Godzilla and
The Muto.
Thank you. But it was really good. I give it probably like a 4.7 out of 5.
Would you give it?
4.7. I didn't want to give it a
4.7?
4. Yeah.
I was going to say I'd give it a 4.8, honestly. I loved it. A little bit too much story into it. I wish I could have seen Godzilla more, even though
Yeah.
when they started the action, they kept blacking it out.
Yeah.
That was the thing that was upsetting me just a little bit. But then it was building that much intense towards the end and everything. I love even the Easter eggs about Mothra and all
Right?
the things that they were showing.
Yeah.
That we
I
kept
don't think a
pointing
lot
out.
of people noticed that though, dude. Which
No.
is kind of fun.
You were helping me out on that. Like, you pointed out when I saw you point the finger, like, towards the pictures and everything. I was like, nice, that's freaking sick. But yeah, I would give it a solid 4.8. It was a really good movie. I can't wait till the second one. Or if they do a crossover with Pacific Rim, that
Oh,
would
wow.
be amazing. I know
That would be
everyone
amazing,
love that.
but I don't know if they'd be. I don't know if they'd
Come on, they
do
did.
it.
You know,
no,
Freddy
I
versus
would-
Jason. I mean, they
Yeah.
could do this.
Yeah.
Alien versus
And-
Predator.
Yeah, technically, when they did Alien vs. Predator 2, they said that like it wasn't canon.
Right.
So essentially, they could do it just as fan service.
Right. And it doesn't have to be like the same humans in it. They could just do
Right.
a what if.
Right.
You know?
True.
For me, the movie was a great movie. I mean, the only thing that I didn't like about the advertisement was they overhyped Bryan Cranston as being the lead character and like
Yes.
the most important character in the movie.
I'll agree with that.
I mean, given that I wasn't really a fan of Breaking Bad, God forbid if I say that, I just never got around to watching it. I think I'm one of the ones that actually likes watching Weeds over that just because of the lightheartedness in it. So for something like Breaking Bad, it really couldn't catch my interest and keep it going. So for Bryan Cranston, his noble works for me is easily actually Malcolm in the Middle,
I knew you were gonna say
where
that,
I
yeah.
look at him as just like, you know, the goofy,
goofy
dad. What's up?
He was also in Batman Year One as well.
Batman Year One as Commissioner Gordon, yeah.
Ooh.
So I mean, for that, I mean, there he had a good serious tone to him, and Malcolm in the Middle, he was a goofy dad, which I still see him running around in his underwear half the time. Like when I think of Bryan Cranston, I think of like an old, failed, risky business. And so, like for me, I can't imagine him, you know, just being that serious. But I mean, like I said, I'm not familiar with the Breaking Bad series, so maybe it's just my interpretation of him. And when I saw the movie, I was like, man, in the commercial, I thought of Shia LaBeouf when he's like always yelling and stuff. I started thinking like, no, and the screaming. I was like, if I wanted to see the Transformers movies, I would go back home and then either Netflix it or put it on my DVD player. So I was like, please God, don't be like Transformers. And come to be, it was more about, I guess, the love story between the husband and the wife, and then the introduction of what caused Godzilla to come back and this and that. So it's a good movie. I give it, because it was the beginning of the summary films, and now that we're at the ending of them, I would give it, not trying to be too critical on it, I would give it like a 4.8, because it was a great movie. It did start the summer transition really well. And I would definitely love to see it again once it's on DVD or Blu-ray or whatever the streaming service I usually go to, Booty.
I probably have to agree with the two people that went before me with the 4.8, just because I thought the movie was great. I thought Bryan Cranston was seen as the kind of lead in the trailer, but I think maybe they did that just to kind of build up what the story could be.
I think they did it to draw an audience, because
Correct,
it wasn't a Breaking Bad just ended recently.
Yeah.
People were like, what's he going to be doing next? Godzilla, we're going to Godzilla.
Yeah.
So.
And Aaron Taylor Johnson was good in the role, but then like Holiday said over here, the build up for Godzilla with us still seeing kind of the blacked out, halfway through the battle, or the silhouette, but going with that, once we did see the final battle, it was that good, especially when we saw the atomic breath.
Yes.
Oh, that was great.
When he the lighting up on his back, I actually threw me off, and I was like, "That's actually pretty awesome."
Yeah, the lit up spines definitely added to that effect of kind of the charge up of the atomic breath.
Yeah.
As well as the Muto was great, because even though people found out what it was and how it wasn't part of the old school kind of Godzilla history, it still lived up very well to the things that we saw with the movie. As well as we do see kind of like a mid-movie battle with the male Muto, and then we see a like legitimate bigger battle with the female. So I thought that was kind of good going with the movie as well, because then we kind of get kind of a spotlight of what Godzilla can do.
Yeah, and you know what? Honestly, I give the fatality on that movie from Kick-Ass killing all the baby Mutos. So like, I give that a solid 5, because he blew him up and looked at them all dead in the eyes.
Oh yeah.
He's like, I did that. He's like, slow walk away, just like a Denzel walk away at that point. And the baby just get blown up.
With all of our ratings probably being around the higher 4s.
Let's get critical over here, Kathy.
6 out of 5.
Oh.
But I go into it without any prior knowledge of Godzilla stuff. So maybe it was better for me because of that. But just from hearing you guys, like, before we saw the movie, talking about, like, Mothra and all that stuff, I did notice the Easter eggs and stuff, but I have no idea what any of that stuff is going to lead to. Plus, I love Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Okay, so we got very high scores for Godzilla. Aaron Taylor Johnson can replace me anytime.
Yeah.
He can be my stunt double.
So gotta let that mustache grow out.
I know, let that mustache grow.
That facial hair though.
Maybe he'll have some facial hair in Avengers.
Who knows? No, he's gotta be Quicksilver.
Hey, he could grow that mustache super quick.
He rips it out with his bare hands. I don't want to look like Andrew.
So, next summer movie we're gonna get into is going to be X-Men: Days of Future Past.
For starters, it takes off after the Wolverine. It also takes off after First Class, and it also takes off after the third horrific movie that came out from director Brett Ratner, the Joel Schumacher of the X-Men franchise. I think, honestly, it was a great movie. Hands down, it's, I think, one of the best X-Men movies to come out in a long time. It completely just ignores the X-Men origins of the Wolverine. It kind of takes away from the Wolverine that just came out. Also reboots pretty much everything that leads up after First Class and before even, I guess, now the first movie. So at the end of it, you get that little appreciation of seeing Cyclops back, the Phoenix back, which Jean Grey still, as I saw, the average Jean Grey. You get Rogue back, which I'm assuming she still has her powers and everything. I mean, it's going to be weird because now it feels like they have to redo the whole original trilogy to see how how they all came together again, because it's going to leave a lot of holes there, which the original movie did that a lot anyways, because even with Wolverine, his timeline was all over the place of where he was leaving and entering, along with that one guy, the General,
Stryker.
Stryker's age in these movies don't make sense to me. I mean, he starts old as hell, then comes back young as old, and then coming back super young. So I'm like, I don't know where Stryker. I think that guy's a mutant, to be honest. Because that dude changes his appearances more in the movies. I mean, even the fact that he doesn't change his appearance, his age is just so different in every timeline that I don't know where this guy's life is leading and stuff. So for me, it's a great movie. It was worth it. I give it high ratings. Back Moostash, go ahead.
Yeah, I get what you're saying as far as Wolverine's timeline, as well as the whole thing with Stryker. And I feel like the only reason we had that problem is because how many times have we been, I guess, like ping-ponging back and forth with different directors? You know, because literally we had the first two X-Men movies who were the same director, Bryan Singer. We had the third X-Men movie who was Brett Ratner, right?
Yeah.
And then Wolverine, and then X-Men First Class, and then Origins Wolverine were all different directors. And then we get back into Bryan Singer with X-Men First Class. So I feel like maybe now, Days of Future Past, sorry about that. I feel like now that he's trying to kind of redeem himself to say like, well, this is what I would have done if I had, still had my chance giving into the X-Men movies.
Yeah, which I completely agree with. I wish now that since they redid that, maybe now we can actually see new characters have their own movies. Maybe now, since everything's going back to before the Wolverine, maybe now we'll actually see a Gambit in an X-Men movie. Maybe now we'll actually see Deadpool in his own movie. I mean, especially after that teaser footage that got released. I mean, maybe now they're actually trying to push up the hype that since everything's redone, they can fix what was messed up in the past. Because, I mean, I love Origins Wolverine in a weird sense that I actually liked how it introduced where he became and where he started from. But just the ending to it just completely went off guard with the whole Deadpool not talking and him just looking like a cracked out dude with some weird tattoos and shit that aren't even tribal or anything. They just randomly threw him in there and said, here, Baraka Pool. It just amused me, but I was like, this movie could have been done way better. But when it came to the Wolverine, good movie. I just prefer the unedited version just because of all the extra killings and, unnecessary deaths and stuff in that movie that they kind of do. It pushed it just a little bit further that you would expect from a Wolverine movie, not the one that's the PG-13 rated one. Megaman, did you want to say something?
Yeah, going back to what you were talking about with Stryker, when they're going with Days of Future's Past, it's more like the early ages of when Stryker finally is just like, oh, mutants, these are a big threat to everyone, and he doesn't really have the understanding until towards the end when he pulls Wolverine out, and that's the beginning of the Wolverine test. That's the way I interpreted it. And then with the Vietnam stuff, he goes into it. He was Vietnam, right, with Origins, right?
Yes.
Okay. He's more middle-aged by then, and then towards the end of what's it called?
You're talking about the first X-Men?
The second X-Men.
Just
X2.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, X2. X-Men United. There you go. That's what it was. He was more towards like he looked like early 60s to me. Beto, what you want to say?
The ending of, I don't know if you remember it, but the ending of Days of Future Past, that wasn't Stryker actually. That was Mystique.
Yeah.
The ending of it ended
That's
with Mystique
right.
portraying
Never
Stryker,
mind.
which as of right now we don't know what happened to Stryker because. I mean, what happened in the first trilogy? She, the Senator Kelly died, and she portrayed him for a long time until they caught her. And right now, with him being around, I mean, it leads up a lot of speculation because I mean, just because Peter Dinklage as Bolivar Trask, he had the technology that can tell you where a mutant is and where this is at. So I mean, now that the timeline changed. You don't know what's going to be implemented. I mean, if we want to go into other movies where they implemented certain things like the Transformers, the original series, how they had those machines that would tell them where Cybertronian stuff was at, and like they would tell them like Transformers around here. You don't know if like what threat that was imposed at the end of that movie leads them to believe like, hey, maybe we're not going to start a war with them, but we want to know if they're out there. So you don't know if she's going to get caught really soon or what happens. And with the whole testing on him, I mean, I can see it still happening. I mean, he got weighed down. They kind of ended it with him being somewhat submerged with the metal. Yeah. And they don't show if he physically has them back or not when, at the end of the movie. But, I mean, I could kind of see that happening again. But the only reason I remember Stryker not liking the mutants was because of the son. His son killed the mom. And that's the reason why he doesn't trust mutants. Holiday?
Rating, what do you give it?
Me, personally, I'm going to give that one a high 6 out of 5. That was one of the best movies, especially because I've been familiar with the franchise since it was released. I give it a 6 out of 5.
6 out of 5, definitely.
What would you give it, Megaman?
I definitely give it a 6 out of 5. I completely agree with Beto on everything.
I would probably give it the same, but going back to the issue with Stryker, you also forgot that he didn't have the adamantium when they made the, I guess, like, kind of movie version of the X-Force, and Stryker was the leader of that.
Wait,
When they were looking for the adamantium,
are you talking about in Origins when they found the adamantium?
he didn't have it in him, and that was Stryker leading that team.
Yeah.
But we'll leave that for a different video.
Hold on. Because he got the adamantium, and then later on he got Wolverine, and then he put the adamantium in
He
Wolverine.
put the adamantium in Wolverine after.
After the Black Ops missions when he was looking for
Yeah,
the
and that's
mirror.
when he was trying
That's
to
why he was
recapture
trying to
him.
find him. That was the whole reason he brought him back, to put the adamantium in him,
And that's why he was
to
on-
fight Sabretooth
for
after
Weapon
he
X.
kills his girlfriend.
Silver Fox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I said, we'll leave that for a different podcast.
I still give it 2 thumbs up.
I can't give it no rating for some reason. Like, I love the movie. It's just I can't give it no rating. The beginning of it, I kind of didn't like the Sentinels. That's why. Like, just because they're Mystique's powers, and I was just like, so you're telling me Mystique's overpowered then? Like, I just didn't like the review on that. But I like the old Sentinels. That's what I was gonna say. I wish I would have seen more of them. That's why I love the past more and the future scenes and everything. I loved it. Loved Magneto, even though he was trying to help out. But then at the end, his sick, twisted mind, he had to betray everyone because he was thinking out for the better for his race and everything.
Yeah.
So for me, I can't give it a rating because at the end it was just so freaking amazing. You can't rate that.
Ms.Moostash?
I really liked it, but I kind of liked most of the X-Men movies. But I would give it a 5 out of 5.
Okay. So pretty high ratings from the group. So next one, Transformers: Age of Extinction.
I'll start off with that. I did love the other 3 Transformers movies. The second one not as much because of the Fallen, real bad. This one, it went a little bit more in depth for me because one, I'm just glad you don't have 2 whiny kids in there. That was the biggest thing. Galvatron, I'm glad they introduced him. We all knew that was kind of coming, even if you didn't watch the shows or the comics, anything like that. But there was not too much of him. At the end, it was him just hiding, commanding. We all know Megatron's kind of like that, but that's more Starscream, though, in my opinion. I wish he was kind of back in it, but bring him back somehow, I guess. But overall, it was a pretty solid movie. I mean, I would have to give it a 3.5. It was a little weak into the detail because they were still trying to focus too much on the human perspective than the robots because they were saying that they were going to try to do that. But honestly, the best part, the Dinobots. Like, that was the biggest thing right there. And you got to see them transform. It wasn't just dinosaurs. They were the standing tall warriors that we all loved.
Going off of what Holiday said, I completely agree. They focused on the humans too much again. I like how they brought Galvatron in, but I wish they would have shown more of the, like he was saying, that's how Starscream is, more his, like, iron-fisted leadership type thing, but running away at the same time. Another thing, I really liked that there wasn't any bratty, like 2 bratty kids in there, like Holiday was saying. I really enjoyed Mark Wahlberg's performance. It was different. It was really different in my opinion from the other stuff he's been in. I mean, he's been in Max Payne, but that was a complete flop. But I really enjoyed the Dinobots especially. That was the high point for me. Holiday?
Just to talk about what we were just talking about recently about the main Transformers that they keep killing off. That was the main
Yes.
thing that we didn't like. Like, one of the biggest one was Ironhide that they kill off, and then Ratchet at the beginning. So that's what turned me down in the movie. I know a lot of people say you can't keep it to the same, but you're going to introduce Transformers that are like the side ones and not the main ones. So stop killing off the main ones, please.
Agreed.
I mean, if you want to kill off Optimus, that was part of the whole story. You can go ahead and do that. That's fine.
I didn't really want to talk about this movie. I'm gonna be honest. The fact that they didn't have Shia LaBeouf in this, I mean, give it to me. I think he's a good actor. I think he does have potential in certain other roles. I just don't like his screaming in that movie in the original trilogy. And in this set, I don't know if I saw a completely different movie, but I saw a dad take a lot of shit from a little teenager, like the boyfriend. And that just turned me off. Because, I mean, in real life situations, had that been my dad and my sister, oh, dude, that kid would have got laid out halfway during the intro of the movie. And I don't know. I mean, for me, it was just, it brought back the whole family is necessary feeling again, where I wish, you know, in my opinion, they should have killed off the kid or something, you know, gives the dad a reason more to, like, go against the aliens and stuff like that and try to fight with the Autobots. Because, I mean, Mark Wahlberg did portray a pretty good, like, lead role for a human. But, I mean, in my opinion, I would have just rather had him and maybe, like, bring back Tyrese Gibson or something. Bring back somebody from one of the old movies that was military that can, you know, be like, hey, they're after you and, you know, at least I can help you out, blah, blah, and have it, like, maybe a buddy kind of film instead of having the whole focus on he's a dad trying to protect his daughter, and at the same time he's fighting for her affection along with the boyfriend who thinks that he can beat up Marky Mark, where in my opinion, he's still leader of the Funky Bunch and can take that little kid out. So, I mean, for me, the movie was great with Optimus Prime. Had they had no humans in it, I think it would still have been pretty solid. But, I mean, I like Mark Wahlberg's portrayal in there, so... And, like, yeah, the Autobots, I mean, I did get kind of aggravated where Galvatron was introduced and he was just, like, the willow of the wind. He could, like, pretty much go anywhere he wanted to, and just, like, this cloud storm looking like the Sentinels from The Matrix where they would just, like, go anywhere and then just focus and attack one group. I saw that all over again. I mean, that was, I guess, okay, but, I mean, it kind of just makes it, like, it really gives the Autobots a disadvantage, and for them to still come out on top, I kind of tilt my head and figure out, like, why do these bots keep winning? I mean, besides the Dinobots helping out, I don't see how they keep winning against these bots that are actually far more superior, unless you do the whole Venom thing and just, like, hit them with high notes. Go ahead.
The only thing they really need to stop on is the government thing. That's the big issue right there. Like, you can have human stories, but it's just the government's coming back and hiding stuff too much.
I was going to say we're not Autobots, we're anarchists.
I gotta say, going back to what the gorgeous man or Beto was saying, as far as, the human relationships, I totally agree. And I feel like they could have maybe gotten rid of, like, the daughter and the boyfriend and switched it up for Marky Mark and his friend that they killed off very early in the movie. Because that would have made the, I guess, comedic performance, because he was, he was an adult to where, like, he wouldn't have that, like, bickering with him, but it still would have been that, like, insert funny line here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And honestly, I think the only way to look at Age of Extinction is to say, okay, I wasn't too impressed with the third Transformers movie, and then go into the fourth and be blown away. Because honestly, all of us walked into that movie saying, the third one was okay, and then when we saw the fourth one, we were like, oh yeah, it was better than the third one. So where you still felt really good about the movie.
Walk in with low expectations, come back with your mind blown.
I walked into that movie and walked out like 50 hours later. That's how I felt. It was super long.
Okay, so I think... Okay, go ahead. Sorry,
and I'm probably in the minority here, but I loved Shia LaBeouf in the movies. I didn't care, okay? And Megan Fox. I loved them together in the movie. With Mark Wahlberg, like, yeah, I agree with you guys. It should have been just him on his own because the daughter was super annoying to me. The boyfriend was like, whatever. Yeah, his, like, one-liners got annoying. But the daughter, was just, I was like, I don't care if she gets stuck in that car and they take her up into the ship. Leave her. But I'd give it 3 out of 5.
I think that this movie should be based on 2 different scales, because if you're looking at it from the perspective of the as being part 4, that should be like your whatever you believe that should be rated as, and as what if you believe if it's a whole new reboot and you just kind of look at the old ones like, okay, those are the original ones, this is his own new trilogy. So I would start as, would you give it as a part 4 to the Transformers and as a new part 1? So for me, I would give it as a part 4 to the original ones. It really leaves you disappointed because I think the third one's final battle was really spectacular. So I would say as a part 4, it's a disappointment from part 3. Besides the fact that if they would have, even with Shia LaBeouf, the part 3 was a great movie. So I'd say for a setback, I would give it a 2.5 compared to the high note that part 3 left it at. But if I'm looking at it as a whole new reboot and as a whole new series, and I'm comparing it maybe to the first movie instead of the whole trilogy, I would say that this one's a stronger movie than the first movie had. So I would give it, on that note, probably like a 3.5. A 3.5 out of 5. Just because, like I said, I really could do without the human relations again.
I feel like if it was just on its own, I feel like the first Transformers was better. Just because you got Shia LaBeouf and, like, finding the car. No, not just because of him. finding the car and not expecting it to happen and getting to meet everybody for the first time. Where this one was just mainly Optimus. Kind of meeting Mark Wahlberg and... But
I feel like going into what you're saying with that, I feel like we still got that, but with a man and not a boy finding like a Transformer.
True.
Especially with, sorry. I feel like you can't take this movie and not say it's part of the previous though. Because you're technically going off of the backlash from the third movie.
Yeah.
So you can't really, you could, I guess, say, hey, the last three were a trilogy. This one is the second part to a trilogy.
Yeah.
Even though we already had the 3 movies.
Yeah.
So I kind of agree with you with that. I would probably say instead of a 3, I would go maybe a 3.8, maybe a 4. And then going back to if you wanted to have it part of the other ones, then I would have to agree with your rating there.
Yeah. I only give the first one a lot more credit just because of Bernie Mac. May he rest in peace. that dude, his little cameo in that movie made the first one a lot better to me. He was like, "Hey, Meme," that actually made the first one. That's what knocked off points off of this movie, was because it was the little things in the first one that you got introduced to that you kind of don't get in this one. It kind of slingshots you right in, and then expects you to like these humans because they've already given you the humans of the past. Where this one kind of drew back for me.
Plus, I feel like the first one, okay, I'm gonna mention Shia LaBeouf again. He was the comedy in the movie, so you didn't need another person to be comedic. He was serious when he needed to be, but he was also the comedy, and I really liked that.
Serious.
Well,
In the third one, he had a serious moments,
He
especially with his
he grew with
friend.
the role.
Yeah.
When he died in the second one, I was hoping he would stay dead. I'm
I
sorry.
feel like at first, when he finds the car, it's like, oh my god, I have a talking car. Like, how would you be? You'd be all excited. He's trying to get the girl.
He's trying to get those thumbs.
Trying to get those thumbs.
2 thumbs up.
Way up.
And, you know, it's all exciting at first, but then he's like, oh, this is everything that comes with the car. And he's kind of not expecting that, so he kind of grows.
I'm gonna give it as like a beginning of a new like trilogy itself. I'm gonna give it probably a solid 4, just because I really enjoyed seeing Optimus back in his new sleek look, and Mark Wahlberg. I love Mark Wahlberg as an actor. He's a great actor. As a 4th, I'll probably give it a 3, just because like Gorgeous Man was saying, it didn't really have that action-packed ending that we were all really waiting for. Like, we saw the Dinobots, we saw them transform, we saw them fight, but that last fight scene in the third movie was just mind-blowing to me. So I'll give it a solid 3.
I know we've been on this topic just a little bit too much, but still though, about Optimus, I don't like him because he gets hurt too much. Like, he's always going to die, and somehow he comes back out of nowhere though. That's the thing I don't like. Even at the end, when he gets stabbed, spoiler alert, what happens? He pulls the sword out and kills him. It's always like that towards the end all the time. He dies. What?
He missed the spark.
He can still die though. You can rip off the head and don't have the spark though.
But I feel like the reason they did that was just to lead into Optimus leaving so that Rodimus Prime could come in the next movie.
Ooh,
True.
I could take that.
I like that.
So we will end it there on a high note. Okay, and next off we're going to go in with Snowpiercer.
Snowpiercer!
Okay, so Chris Evans, it takes place in a futuristic world, sort of. The climate has turned into like a freaking like ice age type thing. So everybody that's left in the world lives on this train that travels around the world, and it takes a whole year to go around the world on this train. So Chris Evans and his group of people are in the very back of the train. They're the grunts. They do all the work. They eat like mosquito jelly bars, and so they try to make it up to the front of the train. They like stage a revolt and all this stuff, and it's just an action-packed movie, but then it turns into a psychological type movie, and you don't expect that. But Chris Evans does a really good job at being serious, and like, he's just so good. And he's good looking too in that movie. And because he's got a beard and everything. Anyways, so the movie's super good. I would give it a 4 out of 5. Would recommend. It only had a limited release, so watch it however you can.
I would probably have to agree with her rating with the 4 out of 5. Big ups to John Hurt, who's also in that movie. But let's go ahead and get into the next one. So, next movie would be A Million Ways to Die in the West. Most of the people here did not see it, but Megaman did. So, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so A Million Ways to Die in the West, I really enjoyed. Could have been a little bit better. Like, watching Ted, then seeing Seth MacFarlane do this. I kind of went into it kind of clouded thinking, oh, hey, Ted was hilarious. A Million Ways to Die in the West is going to be just as funny. wasn't just as funny. It had its funny moments, but the whole seeing Liam Neeson as a bad guy, it doesn't happen often, so I kind of appreciated it a little bit more. And him having his Irish accent as a cowboy kind of made it different, and I really enjoyed that aspect too. Seth MacFarlane and Charlize Theron actually made a pretty good duo together, and it had it, like I said, it had its funny moments with the whole Neil Patrick Harris dance scene and the song. You have to have a mustache in order to be a man in this movie, apparently. So, props out to Moostash for that.
Yep.
But on the real, I really give it a 3 out of 5, just because I honestly went in with higher expectations. Like I said, Ted funny, but it was more story based than humor based. But I give it a strong 3.5 out of 5.
Okay. So, getting into the big one, pretty much for the summer, besides a few of the other ones, would be Guardians of the Galaxy.
Woo! Woo!
10 out of 10.
Man, kicking it off with a 10 out of 10 out of 5. So, Guardians was actually very good. We do get a star-studded cast. So, what do you guys think?
Chris Pratt. Those 2 words right there say it all.
Perfect.
He had a great role. I really like how he portrayed Star-Lord. Bradley Cooper being Rocket was hilarious. I honestly think Rocket stole that whole show. In my personal opinion, I think he stole the show a little bit more than Star-Lord did. Vin Diesel saying, "I am Groot" the whole movie. Every time he heard it, I had to laugh. Zoe Saldana as Gamora, really, really, really awesome to me. Just how it all portrayed together and came together. Acting was amazing. Graphics were amazing. I'll give it a 5 out of 5.
You're not gonna give Bautista anything?
Oh, thank you. Totally
Yeah.
forgot about Batista. We
Just
didn't really get to see Batista as an actor before this movie, so the way he portrayed Drax, awesome.
Yeah, for me, the movie, coming into a movie that a lot of people don't know a lot about the characters, the whole movie is pretty much CGI because it all takes place in space and stuff. I mean, it was a great movie. I mean, I actually like watching, Merle be Blue and, portray the same character as he did in The Walking Dead for the most part. Which, is becoming iconic. He's becoming typecasted for those type of roles, when they need an a-hole in a movie. He's the best guy that you can look at and be like, dude, him, right there. And, he just fits the spot so perfectly. Kind of like how when you see Wesley Snipes, you just assume Blade or Demolition Man. And, for me, him in that role was just perfect casting. For the team itself, everybody had a solid performance. Everybody more or less got a good backstory to them for the most part. Groot, you still really don't know much about, but for most of them, you do get that great backstory behind them. Drax was honestly my favorite one. Groot was good. Even though he said the same thing, eventually you kind of grow fond of it, and the situations he's put into with Rocket. You can see at least he's loyal. You might not understand everything he says, but he does show a lot of loyalty through his actions, to them and to Rocket Raccoon. So, just for a new team and a whole new franchise, I'm actually really open to it. And I'm really excited to see the next one, or if it goes into, another movie with them teaming up with somebody. This was a movie that I think was not a disappointment at all. I went in there with low hopes and left there on a great note, and money were spent.
Yeah, I gotta say, definitely leading into their next movie, they've already confirmed a Guardians 2, as well as that they would team up with Avengers in Avengers 3. So definitely can't wait. Like I've said before, I wouldn't mind them actually doing maybe the first half of the movie in Guardians and the second half of the movie in Avengers. Because like both of these guys have said, the cast was great. We do see a lot of Easter eggs in the movie as well. Mm-hmm. So going into it, my rating for the movie would have to be probably, a solid maybe 5.5 out of 5. I thought it was really good, but there's a few setbacks in the movie and things like that.
On another note, props to Josh Brolin. Major props to Josh Brolin.
Josh Brolin, yes, Thanos.
The way he portrayed Thanos in the little tidbits he was in really kind of caught my eye with it. And also, I didn't read anything about Guardians before I watched this movie. But so kind of how Gorgeous Man said, I went in with low expectations, came out with my mind blown. I had no idea what to expect from Guardians. But then as soon as I watched it, I was like, I want to start reading them. Gorgeous Man.
For me, another thing that I wanted to land on was I really like the Thanos. I really like Josh Brolin as an actor. I was really hoping that they would have casted him, I guess, in the future Batman movie. But seeing him as Thanos in the Marvel Universe, at least that way, I feel like a part of me, even though I'll step back of him not being Batman and then casting Ben Affleck, at least seeing him in the Marvel Universe kind of opens it up. Because, I mean, there are some actors I wish would be in the Marvel Universe who are already, like, more or less being in the DC Universe. But I see it as a back and forth with that. You win some, you lose some, but... I mean, even for the character as a collector with Benicio del Toro, I think he did a really good job in that movie. I don't know, he's a little creepy and a little, like, you know, he's a little loose end in there, but he actually portrayed that little crazy role, like, pretty well. And, you know, leading it with the whole after credit scene with Howard the Duck, I thought that was pretty good, too. What is this? Go ahead. Holiday?
Same thing, I didn't go in there, like, thinking this was going to be the best movie. It was a good movie to me. I mean, I have to give it a solid 4.5. The one part that made me laugh the most was the ending and Howard the Duck. The ending, how they killed off the main villain, was just super hilarious in my opinion. Besides that, though, it was a good movie.
Ms.Moostash?
Okay. I went in with huge expectations because I thought it was going to be amazing, and it was. I think Chris Pratt was perfect for Peter Quill. Zoe Saldana was great as Gamora. I was a little, not disappointed, but kind of let down with Karen Gillan's portrayal of Nebula. I don't know anything about Nebula, but I feel like her performance was kind of...
Bland.
Yeah, a little bland. I think Dave Bautista played an amazing Thrax, and I just loved it. It had humor, it had seriousness. The beginning was a little depressing, but it was great. I loved it. I give it a 10 out of 10.
A little depressing. Freaking Bethel over here was laughing, man. I just saying.
But I laugh at everything. I'm almost scenic. I laugh at everything.
Yeah, going back to, you know, the rating that Ms.Moostash and I, as far as, you know, a really good rating, I gotta say, going into that, I've seen one person say it. There are so many things going on in this movie, but the way it's done is perfect. Everything kind of has its. There's, of course, you know, you're gonna have a lot of loose ends with the Marvel Universe because you don't know where they're gonna lead, but it does very well in making things huge. So the next movie is going to be
the Dragon Ball Z movie, Battle of the Gods. Yeah, I mean. Captain Holiday, do you want to start this one off, or do you want me just to cut right in?
Go ahead and cut right in. You already started.
All right, you know I was going to give you a proper intro, but let's start off with, in a galaxy long, long ago, there was a great young man named Kakarot, or Goku, depending on what side you like to call him on, and another great warrior called Vegeta, my hero. But anyway, besides that, I mean, the movie goes back to where, I guess, the anime actually left off. Besides, I guess this one is going to be the reboot, so that way you don't have to deal with the GT lore anymore. So, I mean, for this movie coming off as a, you know, going back to the franchise, I personally enjoyed it. I mean, if they do decide to make more seasons of the show or more movies, you know, at least this leaves the show, Dragon Ball Z, on a proper note with Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, you know, still being canon and everything you know and loved about those two shows. You know, still going on and pretty strong. I mean, for the movie, only being an hour and a half, and, you know, the stuff that ends up going on through the movie, and it had a really fast beginning, then slow middle, and then a proper ending like you would expect in any movie. I mean, I really sat there and enjoyed my money that I spent, like $10 per ticket for an hour and a half movie, if that, or like an hour and 15. I loved it, honestly. I think it was one of my favorite movies of the summer, and just because for me it relived a lot of dreams. I've been watching that show for at least 10 years plus. It at least brought back all the things I loved about Dragon Ball and all the things I loved about the characters that I was that I still look at very fondly to this day. Go ahead, Holiday.
I'm hoping they do more movies, so it doesn't take like 26 episodes to kill someone off. So like that'd be like the best thing for them. I love the movie. It brought a lot of humor to it too. The fight scenes were just amazing with it, especially the Vegeta fight. That's what everyone liked. Even though Vegeta did embarrass himself at the beginning, a lot of people probably didn't like that. But when he fought Lord Bills, man, that was just a brutal fight.
That was a proper send-off.
And by the way, this is the first movie a villain did not die. And that's why I was actually excited about this. Like, Goku actually got defeated. That was the thing. And he wanted him to become stronger too. So that's why he didn't kill him. Oh, blow up the earth. Spoiler alert. But this is why I love the movie.
It was good. I just didn't see Bills as a villain, I guess, during that movie. So for me, I kind of saw him, during the fight scene where Piccolo's saying it doesn't seem like he's actually engaging him. It seems that he's more or less training him. So for Bills to survive, I see his character probably flourishing more in the future, maybe even relying on Goku, or I usually call him Kagura, but I could see him relying on Goku the same way that Vegeta came around and started to rely on Goku, in the same ways that the Kais depend on, Goku to go out and stop the forces that are coming, because even they know that they're powerless against, Majin Buu. Even then combined, probably didn't even stand a good chance against them. But now knowing that there's different universes and all that stuff, it could spread out to where Goku can go, where maybe GT did happen in another universe, and in this universe, this is what is going on after the Z series. So for me, it's a great.
Going into what you're saying about the different universes, is this? Would you feel that this is kind of a in between for the future game for Xenoverse?
Yeah, with the fact that this was opening up the fact different universes, maybe that's why the next game is actually called Dragon Ball Xenoverse, because maybe they're because I think Toei has that contract with Bandai and stuff like that, so a lot of that stuff is released through them, like the Naruto and all that great stuff. So I could see them bringing out relating the Xenoverse into the next movie, or saying that maybe GT is canon, maybe those fan pages, that fan movie you saw with Bardock going back into the past is canon in a way. Because this opened up the fact that Vegeta does have that younger brother Tarblus in the Japanese movie. That unless you watched it in Japanese, you wouldn't know what was going on in there. So I could see it being maybe canon in this universe, and maybe in another universe the GT storyline did portray, and that did really happen. So, it gives people closure who wanted GT to be there, and maybe people who didn't want it to end there to go back and at least restart it from this timeline. So, they do that in the video games all the time. I don't see why they wouldn't make sense of it in the movies also. So, yeah, I could see that totally happening. And for this movie, for the 10-year gap or whatever, how long it's been since the last series that came out, 20-something maybe, I enjoyed it. It's a great movie. It was well worth the buy, especially if you like the Dragon Ball Z series. This is great to go watch, and I just see it opening up so much more in the future if Toriyama decides to keep going with it. So 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10, 2 thumbs up, all of my greatest ratings. If you want to relive some great moments, I would say go watch this one if you're a big fan of Dragon Ball Z. And Eddie?
Pre-order Dragon Ball Z at GameStop. No, on a serious note, I loved it. I can't give it a rating. It's over 9,000. Just got to be that geek in it. But the different universes, what I was going to talk about that with you. With Frieza, actually was Lord Bill's right-hand man, kind of. So I can see him using Goku as a right-hand man to help him defeat the other gods, or probably. That's what he's going to train him for. That's my opinion. Probably that's going to happen next. Well, we already know the next movie's going to be the main protagonist is going to be Vegeta. And we'll see how that turns out. But
all right. So, going into the next movie, it's going to be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is
the final movie of the summer.
Final movie of the summer, yeah.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys think?
Great. Really enjoyed it.
I like the movie. Personally, if we're going to go on to me, I am a big Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan. Also, besides Dragon Ball Z, I for shits and giggles, I will give that movie a 5 out of 5 just because I like Ninja Turtles a lot. But yeah, honestly, I liked it. A lot of people really are just disagreeing with the fact that Megan Fox was in the movie, and they keep relating her to the whole Michael Bay thing, and that's why they say the Shredder looks like a Transformer. But it was a different director. Yeah, Michael Bay was involved; he was a producer, but it was a whole different director. And Megan Fox, I'm not gonna say she's the greatest, most talented actress in the world. They could have obviously picked somebody better, but in her performance in there, I enjoyed it. I saw it as a new rendition of April O'Neil, at least for this series now. Go ahead, Moostash.
But yeah, I do definitely agree with you. It's definitely, I was actually surprised. I didn't expect it to be as good as a movie as it was. I wouldn't say it was amazing, but it was definitely a summer movie to go watch, especially if you are somewhat of a fan of Ninja Turtles. And going into what you said about Shredder, I thought Shredder actually was cool because you have to think he's kind of going with the times. Not to mention the company he's connected to, spoiler alert, is like a weapons company, to where he would have those connections to where he essentially would upgrade his armor. Not to mention, along with all of the kind of action sequences, we still got the comedic performance with the Turtles. You know what I mean? Especially going into that final battle with the elevator scene. I love that scene where they're kind of making the beats
Yeah.
So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I mean, for the last year that people have been watching the trailers and been hearing all the fuss about it, how the turtles were going to be CGI, and that Shredder wasn't going to actually be an Asian guy, that he was going to be the guy who played Eric Sachs. I was actually pretty impressed that they slipped that in there, and that they made Shredder like into like an Asian guy that was like kind of like a warlord, I guess, of Japan, and came to the U.S. and decided, I'm gonna run the U.S. too. So, I mean, Shredder had a great backstory. The turtles, more or less the same backstory that they've always been given. Megan Fox, instead of being the little boy, I guess, in the 1980s that drops his turtles, she's the one that actually saves them and protects them from being in the fire and stuff like that. Even though, I mean, the story has its holes, I guess, in it, but it was a pretty good movie. It was a pretty solid movie for Ninja Turtles. And I mean, if I was going to relate these to anything, I would say the 1980s Turtles were represented in the 1990s movies, and then the 1990s, no, was it early 2000s? Turtles were portrayed in this one because they are the bigger turtles. I mean, if you do put these next to the old turtles, it's gonna be like that one movie where the ones were like kind of smaller and these dudes were really big, and their attitudes were way different. I could see them being those turtles, and I'm glad that even though people say that Shredder looked like a transformer, it's way better. I know Holiday's gonna agree on this than him being the Crane or him being like Raphael, I guess, from the comics at this time. Mm-hmm. So, given the fact that he does have that advantage to get into technology and stuff the way he did, I like this Shredder. If you do want to call him like Mega Transformer Shredder, I like this one more than a Crane Shredder.
Just to make sure too, I noticed that there were some kind of talks of an alien thing. Mm-hmm. Did you see that? Like, as far as like the serum that was actually given to the turtles was like alien in origin?
Yeah. That would be, I don't know, like, I could see it happening maybe, because Crane was in the original series. Oh. I mean, he just wasn't the Shredder that they portrayed him in the second series, or second or third series, if you want to count the live-action one that they did. But, yeah, I mean, the original one, you did have Crane inside of, like, a big humanoid
I remember.
person, and then, of course, you had Uncle Phil playing Shredder, which is actually... I still remember hearing the voice, and now I think back to it, I'm like, damn, that really was Uncle Phil.
Tony Shalhoub as Splinter.
So, dude, Splinter was ugly, but he looked like a rat. That's the one thing I gave him a lot of credit for, was he looked like a rat.
I think that's what I enjoyed about the movie as well, was that you got to see like the reason Shredder or Splinter trained the turtles. He kind of knew that there would be danger in the future, and he was like, oh, like you actually see him find kind of the ninja book, and he's just like, oh, I had to teach myself before I was able to teach the turtles.
Yeah.
A ninja book that just happens to be in the sewer with them.
I knew a lot of people were going to complain about that because originally he watched his master training. Yeah, that's how he learned.
The original
book thing, I don't care. Honestly, that's an okay idea. And how it randomly show up there, maybe a Chinese person got tired of it and threw it in the sewer, okay?
Oh, racist.
It's not being racist, okay?
Could have been a Japanese guy.
Could have been a black guy.
But
Blackanese.
It could have been hip hop keto. But you know what? No, actually, I kind of can understand that more of a storyline than actually a master training his rat in the arts of something that even people nowadays can't understand.
Because technically, it would have been something he learned after he was already kind of being affected by the mutagen.
Yeah, by the mutagen, and his brain like enlarging and stuff, and actually being able to comprehend what was going on around it. Because I mean, even before that, he had to learn how to read at one point or another too. So, I mean, I understand like him reading the book and teaching himself it, and then teaching it to the kids, compared to him watching a master with the intellect of a rat. I mean, I don't know. Usually rats are test subjects in most experiments, and I don't see, even they would throw in a maze and expect them to try to find their own way out, and they have a problem with that 90% of the times. So I mean, for trying to teach a rat how to do kung fu and then expecting them to teach it to turtles this time around, especially with today's like people that just easily blow off ideas like that, I kind of like how he conveniently found that book, I guess, and taught himself ninjutsu, and then taught it to the turtles. I liked it.
Another thing I wanted to bring up too was that I actually thought it was going to be kind of a bad idea, but Johnny Knoxville as Leonardo, he actually did very good.
Very good. I think the cast of the voice actors did a pretty good job as the turtles. I mean, I couldn't sit there and complain about any of their voices, because I mean, if you think about the way they were supposed to act, especially watching the cartoons and reading the comics. I mean, the comics are always going to be a little bit more grim compared to the cartoons, because they have to tone it down for children. But I mean, for the movie, I think the cast was phenomenal for the group. It surprised me that Ms.Moostash actually showed me who Michelangelo was from the Twilight series, but I just wouldn't suspect him in there. But yeah, I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed watching them with their antics. Michelangelo, as my favorite, was my favorite in this movie again, and Rock being the way he was, and as arrogant and as proud as he is, I mean, you can counter him as a Vegeta of the Ninja Turtles, I guess. He did have a lot of structure to him, and he did show eventually that brotherly bond, which he doesn't show in a lot of movies. And I like that. I mean, I like how they use the whole family marking in the movie as one of their main substance as to who they are themselves and what they believe in and stuff. So yeah, I mean, honestly, like I said, I'm going to give the movie a 5 out of 5 just because I'm biased like that. But if I had to sit here and give it an honest opinion, I would say 4.5, 4.8 because of all the movies I had seen prior. But it would be around the same level with me as it has rewatchability, I guess. I can sit there, and if the movie's on, I would actually go out of my way to put it on. Or if it happened to be on TV, I would, watch it again. But yeah, I mean, if you like the original series or you were familiar with it at all at any point in your life, you would actually, I think anybody would enjoy this movie, even if you do or don't like Megan Fox or the Big Turtles or anything like that. It's a good watch.
I thought the different look for the Turtles was very cool. I thought a lot of the things they did as far as, backstories for that was very good as well. One of which being, I love that Megan Fox's character, when she was a child, fed them pizza, and that's the reason that they like pizza. And then how, even when they were, I guess, being scolded by Splinter, the kind of, trials that they would have to do, and then he would come in with the pizza and essentially, be like, oh, this is the fabled 99 cheese pizza, you know what I mean? So I thought that was very cool. So I would have to give it a solid 4.
It's like, don't break.
I would give it a good 4.6. I loved it. It brought back childhood memories. That was the best thing. Towards the end, though, I'm hoping they do a Super Shredder. Maybe they do go away from the robot form. I mean, I do like that, but maybe make him just more muscular than if he does get the ooze on him then. I mean, put him in a regular samurai outfit. That'd be awesome. Maybe put Batista in the outfit then, something like that. But, in the next one, though, I'm sorry, I need to see Vanilla Ice in the next movie, okay? I need that ninja rap.
With the fact of the mutagen that he got that on him, and this is just between us, do you think that they're honestly going to introduce the fact that maybe Shredder is going to become like a super turtle? Because remember in the cartoons, it was in the 1980s cartoons that whatever you touched last with the mutagen was what you transformed into. That's why the turtles were anthropomorphic. I'm gonna say that wrong. Yeah. Anthropomorphic, or however it's pronounced right now. That's why they had human characteristics, because I think the last thing they touched was Splinter in his human form. And then when Splinter touched the mutagen, the last thing he had touched was a rat, and that's why he turned into Splinter.
That's true.
And if they go off of that, like Rocksteady and Bebop, that was the last thing those humans had touched. I'm wondering if because the last thing he did was fight the turtles. But maybe, more or less, if he happened to touch April O'Neil, he'll still keep his human form. But if the last thing he physically touched was the Ninja Turtles when he was throwing them off the building and trying to kill them, which was surprising. I mean, normally they fight. He tried to kill him right away. He did not give in to I'm going to fight them. No, he's like, I'm throwing them off this building right away so that way he can go with his plan.
I mean, it'd be kind of weird, though, for his human form to change. I can see his robot form changing maybe into Metalhead. That would actually be kind of cool, though, because Metalhead, was a turtle. So, I mean, they just made him into a robot. I could see his maybe suit turning into a turtle, which would actually be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like you were saying about the last thing he touched, technically he did touch April O'Neil because she kicked him off of the thing.
Oh. But did he grab her or anything? Did he physically touch him?
Well, no, he jumped after the ooze and she fell with him. He didn't kick her, she didn't kick him.
Because I thought she says swing me, and she swings, hits him, and he falls.
Oh.
And then the mutagen is actually on the ground, and he touches it.
Yeah, because the last thing he touched before, because usually it's what you touch before you touch the mutagen is what you turn into. So I'm curious, is before he fell off, what if he had touched the turtles or anything like that? What he physically touched? Because I mean, physically he got kicked by April O'Neil, but if they go that other route, I mean,
because technically, if you think about it, his suit, he would have his suit on, so technically he would never touch the turtles either.
Yeah.
True.
Because the last thing he technically touched was that
then
ball.
it would be maybe he's not going to be the Super Shredder.
And like you said with Rocksteady and Bebop, I think that would be a perfect thing for the next movie. Because those were major characters as far as, Shredder versus the Turtles.
Yeah, Turtle Canon, I guess.
Well, they're already talking about doing Tokar and Razor again, which I'd be happy with that, though, if they do it again.
That'd be pretty cool. But like I said, what if Shredder ends up becoming like Tokar or something, and then the guy Sax ends up becoming like the new Shredder?
Yeah.
So what if he keeps the original Shredder like as a experiment and stuff like that? Because remember he wanted the turtles for the mutagen.
Yeah.
And what if he keeps Shredder around for the mutagen that's now running through his veins, and he keeps him like a science experiment?
That's
I mean,
good.
there's a lot of ways, especially with as corrupt as that dude was in the movie. I mean, didn't he like kill his own best friend or something just for the heck of it? So I mean, the next movie can go a lot of ways. It just depends on if it's going to be a fan favorite. You know, they're going to make it for the same people that tried to make this movie for, or if they're going to go ahead and go like, you know, the last movie, if it fails or does well in the theaters to their expectations, they're going to be like, let's make it a family movie and then go that route, like Ninja Turtles Part 3, which was pretty horrible.
Megaman, what'd you think?
Back to going to the individual personalities for the turtles was really awesome. I liked how they made Leonardo, what he was wearing kind of seemed like, oh yeah, Leonardo's the leader. He's going to have the kind of like the ninja outfit in the front. Michelangelo, his silly self as always.
Book of Shells.
Yeah. Donatello with all of his gadgets and stuff and the different types of glasses he wore. I really like how they pertain to the scientific brain that he had. And then to Raphael, how he was one of the, like how he had his mask as a do-rag. He thought himself as, you know, a hard ass, and, you know, he was the toughest one on the whole squad. But then, like Moustache pointed out, the brotherly love that he showed towards Leonardo, or, my bad, Gorgeous Man, talking about the brotherly love he talked about with his brothers at the very end. You don't really see that very often. I give it a solid 4.5.
Going back to what you're saying about his so-called do-rag, technically in the old school, that was their original mask. So I wouldn't consider it a do-rag. I would just consider it another way of like having the mask or bandana.
And coming from somebody as of right now who did not want to see this movie, which we dragged along, Ms.Moostash.
I give it a 2.5 out of 5.
What?
And her opinion is no longer
The
validated.
length of the movie was perfect. It was not long, thank God. My favorite turtle, though, was Donatello. Anyways, I liked him a lot. I think Johnny Knoxville did do a good job voicing the turtle, whatever one he played.
Leonardo.
The leader.
The blue one.
Megan Fox, I feel like, was okay.
2 thumbs down.
1.5. Okay.
2 toes down. But I had the same thumbs as her, sadly, so I kept
my
on.
God.
Sorry, Megan Fox, if you hear this, I still love you.
I love you too. And you
love
know
you,
what?
Megan.
Our thumbs are almost parallel to be the same, so I love you even more.
I just feel like they were trying to be funny, but she can't really pull it off. And then I feel like Whoopi Goldberg's, that was just a waste of like character. I don't like.
Worst role for Whoopi Goldberg by far.
No,
Probably.
because if you watch the 1980s cartoon, she pretty much played the boss pretty well. Like,
Yeah.
Boss was just like old.
an a-hole.
Yeah, old
And that's
guy.
pretty much
a-hole.
that's the same thing as her in this movie. She was just an a-hole. And then
No, she was just like a shine on kind of person.
I
She was
just
like,
feel
okay, whatever. You
It
know?
didn't need to be a major actor like that, or actress, sorry. It could have been anybody.
yeah. All right, so
So that is it for Turtles. One honorable mention would be Captain America, like I said in the beginning. The Winter Soldier, which was technically part of Phase 2 for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Quick ratings, we're not going to try to get into it because we are reaching our hour pretty soon.
11 out of 10.
11 out of 10 for Ms.Moostash.
4 out of 2.
4 out of 2?
Yeah. So that means it's better than a half, I guess. In my opinion, it was a good movie. I just didn't see like what I didn't get from it that I wanted to get from it, which was Thor. But I'll still give it some credit. And actually, I'll give it more credit than that. That movie was really good. You know, really solid movie. For Captain America, it beats the first one by far easily.
Yes.
The first one was boring. Unless you just really wanted to sit there and know why Captain America, I guess, was in the group at all. This movie was way better. The Winter Soldier was good. I liked him a lot, and I liked Falcon a lot more than I thought I would. So, yeah, I would give that movie a solid 4.5 out of 5. Yeah, 2 thumbs up because, like I said, the supporting cast was really good.
Okay. And then Mega Man, what did you think about it?
I really enjoyed it. I give it about, if we're going on a scale of out of 10, I'd go with Ms.Moostash 11 out of 10. Bucky Barnes coming back as the Winter Soldier, I was ready for that. Really enjoyed that thought and how they portrayed him out, and just his inner struggle, how they touched on that, really played out. Sam Wilson as Falcon, also really enjoyed seeing that. But yeah, 11 out of 10. Winter Soldier.
And then Captain, what do you think?
Wow, just amazing movie. And I have to give it a 5 out of 5, perfect rating. The movie met every expectation for me. Even him grabbing the Captain America shield right away, you're like, oh, he's gonna kill him. He's gonna kill him. Just it got you on the edge right at the end. It was a good battle. Just honestly though, for friends, like if you have any close friends, those two were really close. And then for him not wanting to fight back, you're like, aw, you know, that little touchy kind of feeling thing. But really enjoyed it, and I'm glad they also mixed the TV shows with this movie too, by the way. So that was actually really cool also.
I thought I gotta agree as well. Probably either a 5 out of 5 or a 4.5 out of 5. It was very good. I loved the kind of little teases at what the future for Winter Soldier might be, as far as him holding the Captain America shield and things like that. So that is gonna be it for the podcast. So we have
Megaman.
Holiday.
Ms.Moostash.
Gorgeous man.
and Moostash. So peace.